Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Press Box. Brian Carson here with my co-host Kenny Varner. Kenny V, what's up, buddy?
Oh, not too much. I'm just confused on what season this is. Last week we were in shorts, and today and yesterday it's been snowing off and on. Crazy.
Yeah, that everybody here living in Central PA, we know what the winter's like. I mean, the spring. It'll be one day sunny and the next day it'll be 30 with snow showers. But hey, that's
Yeah.
spring. So, speaking of spring, baseball, softball, all them nice spring sports. I'll tell you what, man, after Kenny, after the winter, and I love wrestling and stuff, but there's something special about going out to a game, baseball, sun there with your scorebook, or now everybody's got digital, scoring digitally. Uh, it's a great time, great atmosphere. You gotta love it.
It is. There's everything's new. The year, the spring's here. And it's just nice and relaxing compared to just to watch like these sports, and you know you can really soak up the sports. It's more of a relaxing type of season
Laid
time.
back.
Yeah, not for the athletes, but
No.
for us old guys.
But speaking of new, nice segue,
Nice.
we have a new baseball coach at Mifflin County, and that is a familiar name to everybody who's lived here long enough. Maybe not some of the youngins, but for us old guys, not that you're old, Ray. Ray Hoppel, new baseball coach for Mifflin County. Us old timers will remember Ray, Lewistown Baseball State Championship. One of the coaches on that team with John Bell. Um, we're into softball for a while. So my first Ray, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. You kind of segued me in with new, but I thought for sure you were going to segue me in with old. That might have been just as appropriate.
Well, but you're a new baseball coach. So now you did coach Lewistown, so you're not new at coaching the game.
Correct.
You're new at Mifflin County. And what made you decide? Because I know you were doing softball for a while. Your daughter played for Mifflin County. What made you decide I want to coach? I want to coach baseball again.
Well, when I got out at Lewistown, it was as much for family obligations as anything else. My daughter at the time was about 8 years old, and she was starting to play softball, and my son was at the time about 4, and he really liked baseball, and so they were playing their games, and I was, unfortunately, because of my commitments to the high school team, I was missing some of that stuff, and frankly, that was some stuff that I didn't want to miss anymore. And so when the schools merged and the job became open, it was something that I chose not to apply for. It wasn't necessarily because I was burned out of coaching. It was just there were some family obligations that were a little bit more important at the time. And so even though from about 2011 to 2016 or so, I wasn't coaching scholastically, anybody that was around the county, whether it be T-ball, pony league, little league, or softball, whatever. I mean, they saw me around, and I certainly never left the fields during that time. And I felt like when I left Lewistown back in 2011, I left under things were pretty good. I had good relationships with administration and my coaching staff and the players. And so whenever the position opened up again, I thought, is this something that I want to dabble in again? And here we are.
How was it when you first met the kids? Trying to get each other's personalities, or did you know these guys? You're a teacher, right?
Yeah, I teach at the high school, but what's really different about this group is that, and actually what makes this experience a lot different than the last one was when I was coaching at Lewistown, those kids were coming in, and I was, for the most part, seeing them for the first time as ninth graders. Whereas this group that's coming in now, I've been watching play since they were 5 years old. So I've over the last 10 years or so, I felt like I've developed a lot of family relationships with the kids and their parents. And so when I came into this position, I wasn't coming in completely cold like I was with some of the kids at Lewistown. So I kind of knew what we had coming in. So from that standpoint, I feel like it made the job a little bit easier. But it's certainly different than back in the Lewistown days.
How's it going with like the camaraderie between not the players themselves, not just the players, but you and them? Are they getting used to your style of managing and what you're expecting from them?
I think so. It's unfortunately, like you were kind of leading in with the show. The weather this week hasn't been great, and this was, to me anyway, this is probably the most crucial week of the season because we start Monday with Central Dauphin, who is arguably one of the favorites in the league. They have a number of very good players, and we're trying to get things fine tuned. And unfortunately, I don't think we've had a day above about 40 degrees when we've practiced. Now we did get outside a little bit today. We've been outside every day this week, but the wind chill's been in the 30s, and today, the time we went outside, all of a sudden the wind really started to blow, and it was very uncomfortable to say the least. So we're definitely missing some time on the field that I would have liked to have had to this point, but unfortunately, that's spring in Pennsylvania, and I think a lot of teams around here are in the same boat. So we're just trying to make do with what we got. But to answer the first part of your question, I think the kids are getting used to me. A lot of them have played for me before in some capacity, whether it be in summer leagues or last year I was an assistant on the JV team. So I feel like I know the kids pretty well. I think they know my expectations, and so far I feel like the teamwork between myself and the coaching staff and the kids has been pretty good.
Speaking of expectations, what are they for your team?
That's interesting because there's no question that this senior class especially comes in with a lot of accolades, primarily from the summer, going back to Babe Ruth age, 15 years old, going down to Eagle Pass. So I mean, they definitely have a lot of games under their belt, but as anybody will tell you, the mid-pen is a totally different beast than what they're used to seeing on the Babe Ruth field. So, if we have, for instance, if we have fans that are coming to watch and they see the caliber of baseball that not only we're playing, but our opponents, it is eye-opening. I mean, just the other day I was in the car with my son and we were looking at a prep baseball report for Pennsylvania, and the three of the top 10 players in the entire state this year, at least according to that service, we're going to see, and two of them we're going to see twice. So in 5 of our 20 games, we're going to be seeing a top 10 player from the state, and that doesn't include any of the other kids from those teams, which we know are just as, if not just as good. So I'm always careful to go after expectations this early. I feel like if we play our game, if we improve each practice and each game, I think those kinds of things will take care of themselves. And I'm a big fan of goal setting. So right now our game in front of us is Central Dauphin, and we've been doing our best over the last week to prepare just for them because that's what we have in front of us. And so I'm very careful to not look ahead too far because anybody that comes to that game on Monday of next week is going to see a real live arm from Central Dauphin facing us, and we're going to have our work cut out for us. I know we have the ability to win that ball game, but it's going to take a team effort.
It's no big secret that the last couple of years have been disappointing for Mifflin County compared to what we've been used to. And that can create a culture that's, oh no, it can build up. Like, I hate to bring up the past, but Lewistown football was a long culture of, oh, here we go. And they would play good and something would happen and then everything would fall apart. how do you go about in your philosophy of, even though it's only been a couple of years, of getting them out of that mentality of that disappointment of these last two seasons?
Well, it certainly starts with a positive mindset, and I have made absolutely no bones about it that we are winning that first game. Now, if we play our best and do everything to the best of our ability, and we don't win that game, then you tip your hat to your opponent for doing so. But I feel like we have the team that we can win any single game on our schedule. I feel like if things don't go our way, we have the ability to lose every game on our schedule. But you're right; it's a mindset, and I feel like that myself and the coaching staff, we've tried to do our best um, to try to get rid of that mind. It's easier said than done. Baseball is such a mental game, and so we always do our best to stress the positive. And truthfully, when you look at that record last year, it wasn't very good, but they were so close in so many games, and it certainly was not for a lack of effort by the players or the coaching staff. I feel like John had his players prepared last year. He really did. And unfortunately, when you're playing top caliber competition every single night, it's certainly it certainly forces you to play almost perfect baseball in order to win.
Yeah, that's true. Everything begins and ends with pitching. It really does. Give me a rundown of your starters and relievers, or I know you're going to mix and match. You told me that a lot of kids are going to get an opportunity, but how do you feel about your pitching right now, top to bottom?
Well, if you remember that 2002 team from Lewistown, we
Yes, I do.
we had Cody Zong, Jason Mattern, and Kalen Gearhart probably for
Boy, they
99% of our
stank.
innings.
Boy, they stink.
Yeah. We had I remember that year so well just because of the number of scouting reports I did. We had a team ERA of 1.88, and that is pretty much just blown away any team that I've ever been a part of. I mean, those guys were so competitive and so fierce. This team is the polar opposite of that in terms of numbers. I'm not saying that because I don't feel like we can be that good, because I do think we can be, but we have I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this. I think we have 15 guys on our roster that can pitch. And I'm not even bringing 3, JV pitchers who I feel like have had really, really strong springs to this point into the mix. What's really nice is the 2 guys that had the majority of our innings last year, Landon Eichhorn and Doug Weaver, are back. And that really, really helps a lot, especially when you're going into a season where, the expectations might be a little bit different. These guys have really set their mind to turning things around, and having those 2 guys, out there to be starters is going to be really important for us. And we have some other guys that I feel like have had good springs on the mound. I've really been impressed with Aiden Ativo. We were watching him pitch today, and he didn't come out for the team last year. He's only a pitcher, and that's what he wants to focus on. And he's done a nice job for us this spring. We also have some guys that saw some relief time last year that I feel like are also throwing very well. I've been impressed watching Tucker Gill from the mound. I've been impressed watching Aiden Arnold from the mound. He threw mostly JV innings last year, but I feel like he throws a lot of strikes, and he's the kind of guy that can give us some innings as well. And then, honestly, we have so many other guys that have their own little specialties. Some guys are more of an off-speed curveball type guy, and those guys would include people like probably like my son Grady, who I feel like really throws the breaking ball and the changeup about as well as anybody we have on the team. Then we have other guys that can throw the ball pretty hard. Xavier Smith, Aiden Reed, Ty Plank, Elliot Yetter. Those guys can throw the ball pretty hard. And there's a couple of other guys too that maybe haven't seen as much pitching time so far in the bullpens, although we have them coming in. We have some more guys coming in tomorrow. I mean, it really is it really is a very deep pitching staff, and sometimes you might, I've heard of coaches saying, well, if you have too many pitchers, that just means you don't have enough. Well, I've always been of the mindset that you can never have enough pitching. So, I mean, I haven't even mentioned guys like Farrell Souders and Kalen McKnight. Madden Weaver's coming off of an arm injury, so we're not really sure exactly what we're going to get out of him, but he can throw the ball pretty hard. Clay Ammon is joining us as the first player from BMS to be a part of the co-op, and he'll be on our roster this year as well. So we have a lot of guys that have the ability to throw, and there's certainly nothing wrong with having lots of arms.
No, not at all. So it sounds like what you were saying is the thing that made Lewistown 2002 so devastating is you had Mattern's a lefty. Zong was that awesome control pitcher, like a Maddox. Mm-hmm. And then you brought Gerhardt with the heat. And I mean heat. So is your staff kind of like that right now? Not like them, but with that, you got lefties in there and got speed.
Yeah, I wish I had lefties. We don't.
How about it?
Yeah, we don't have a single lefty on the roster, and so we walk and you walk up to these teams and you watch them warm up, and feel like a lot of these teams have 9 or 10 lefties, and I think to myself, where are all these guys? Now, I mean, we have some lefty sticks, but we don't have any lefty throwers at all.
Wow.
So, if anybody's listening out there, some dad has a little boy or whatever that's 1 or 2 years old, you're going to put him a baseball, put in his left hand to start with, because goodness gracious sake, we could surely use a few southpaws.
You know what they say, you want to get to the majors fast, be a catcher or a left-handed pitcher.
Absolutely.
So
by the way, I also, another guy I forgot to mention as a pitcher, and I do think he's going to see some time for us this year. He was on the roster last year too. He's having a very good spring, is Jacob Ross.
Okay.
He's doing a really nice job, and I've been really impressed with what he's done so far. Logan Alexander too. I mean, honestly, I feel like I want to make sure that I mention all these guys because, I think they're all going to contribute.
Let's stick with pitching still a little bit more. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the two main guys with experience, Landon Eichhorn, Dougie Weaver. Why do quarterbacks always make good pitchers? I guess they're so used to throwing.
Yeah,
you look at high school baseball and it's like, he plays quarterback too.
I can remember that a lot of the best athletes. I grew up at a small school, Northern Cambria. We were talking a little bit before we went on. Northern Cambria was, I guess, by today's standards, they're with 6 classifications are kind of a single A, double A school. But we were pretty solid double A back then, but in a 4-class system. But I mean, for the most part, the teams that we played, the quarterback was also the point guard and also a pitcher. I mean, that's kind of that was kind of they once a field general, always a field general. Some of them were even catchers. But the one thing about Landon is, and you've seen this on the football field, he's always under control. It doesn't matter what he's doing. He always seems to kind of have that. He sort of has that calmness around him, and I think that really makes him a good pitcher. And I mean, nothing seems to rattle him at all. And we have a few guys on the staff that have that mindset. I think that's really important because it's very easy sometimes to play the schedule that we do, and you feel like the world's kind of crumbling around you, and it's hit after hit after hit, or bad things are happening, and he seems to have kind of maintain his wits and maintain his composure and get through the inning. And I had mentioned Logan Alexander a couple of minutes ago. He's kind of like that too. He just, nothing seems to faze him on the mound. And so, and both of those guys have, Landon throws a little bit harder, but as far as their mannerisms are consistent, they both have pinpoint control. I mean, and Landon, to kind of go back on him, I mean, honestly, he had 2 errors last season at shortstop. And that's in a 21 or 22 games that we played last year. That's almost unheard of.
Yeah,
for the amount of balls that go there. So I mean, he's a big part of what we do.
And Doug Weaver, what's his repertoire like? What's he?
Well, he
assess him.
He might throw just a touch harder. But not a whole lot. Landon's he's kind of ramped his velocity up this year a little bit. He was kind of in that, 78, 79, 80 mile per hour range last year when I remember seeing him gunned at the Altoona Curve Classic. I think he's a couple of ticks ahead of that now, and that's probably a little bit more in line with where Doug is now. I mean, Landon's more of a kind of a 3/4 guy. His release is a little bit different. Maybe throws a little bit better changeup. Doug throws maybe a tick harder. I don't really know. It's not. I wouldn't say it's much, but has a little bit better breaking ball. Really comes over the top. A little bit different styles, but nonetheless, they've both been successful, and I'm looking for that success to continue for them this year.
Awesome. I got on Mark Ativo, Aiden's dad. It's like, you wrestled, dude. Why did your kid play basketball?
Well, I can tell you right. I can tell you right now. If you put Aiden on a wrestling mat, he's not getting up. He's going to see the lights. That's just him. Now he can pitch. He can throw the ball pretty hard.
Good.
But wrestling is. I can assure you that. If you put him on the mat in a singlet, he wouldn't be there long.
Yeah, I was joking with him though. I was like, "You're a wrestler. You were a wrestler, man. Why didn't you make your kid wrestle?" No, just kidding. So next to pitching, it's pretty much the same in every game, softball too, as defense.
Right.
You just mentioned Landon. What is your thoughts right now as you're coming into the season about your defense?
Well, we have several guys that it's kind of hard to almost say a starting lineup yet, although I don't really have to say too much about certain guys. Ryan Carnegie's behind the plate. He's pretty solid. He's been back there for 2 years already. He's kind of a fiery sort of team leader guy. He really got himself into very good shape over the winter. And he's certainly, I'm looking for good things from him this year. Xavier Smith's going to be at third, going to Millersville next year. He's really been a leader in practices for us as well. And I don't know that we have too many guys on the roster that can hit the ball harder than he can. I mean, he truly is. If we have a 5-tool guy, he's the one. I mean, he hits, he fields. He's one of those guys I feel like you can almost put anywhere on the field and he'd be successful. Landon, of course, is going to probably see the field somewhere. Probably shortstop. If he pitches, we'll have, we'll obviously have to fill that spot. Xavier's brother, Jaden, who's in 10th grade, has done a really nice job at first base. And I've made the comment to several other people that I feel like his hands are about as good over there as anybody at his age that I've ever coached. And, once I feel like if his bat comes around a little bit, that's really you're really gonna see some good things from him as well. As far as in the outfield, we have a bunch of guys fighting for a couple of spots, and frankly, I've been impressed by a lot of them. Kalen McKnight probably, at least in my opinion, probably has one of the best arms in the entire conference. I mean, he can really throw a ball. Farrell Souders, same way, and he's been in the outfield, and he's got another cannon arm from the outfield. Hayden Yoder can defend about as well as anybody, and I can throw Hunter Marks into that defensive conversation as well. And then we have several other guys that in that outfield that do a lot of good things too. I mean, JP Panizzo is another guy who has come into this season and he's really improved his stick. I've really been impressed with the way he's hit the ball. Ty Plank was one of our guys that got a lot of time last year, and he tracks the ball in the outfield about as well as anybody we have too. And the only position I haven't mentioned is second base, and we have 3 or 4 guys that I can trust to put there between Tucker Gill, Grady Hoppel, Clay Ammon, Madden Weaver. Madden kind of bounces a little bit over to shortstop too. He's, I feel like that position is going to be manned pretty well. And then we have a guy like Reese Christine, who is kind of a Swiss Army knife. He can catch, he can pitch, and that'd be more of a pinch for him, but he can play the outfield, he can play the infield. And his stick is certainly going to get him in the lineup somewhere. So, I mean, we're going to have to probably find a spot for him at some point, but I can't stress enough how competitive things are with our group and how well they have competed and how well they've competed with each other and honestly rooted each other on too. I mean, that's not always easy to do. when you're, 17, 18 years old and you're in high school and you're competing for starting spots. It's sometimes that can be tough, and it kind of weighs on your mind. But I feel like the guys have done a good job in rooting for each other and really trying to bring out the best in one another.
Kenny, I know I'm hogging it again. You have any questions?
Yeah, who's gonna be assisting you in the dugout this year?
Okay, so the varsity assistants are going to be Brett Leister he's been kind of running all of the pitching stuff, and you guys probably remember him coaching with me at Lewistown back in the day.
And I covered him. I covered him when he pitched for Indian Valley.
Yeah, well, I was going to say he was pitching whenever I was coaching at Lewistown. He was pitching against us. I've always reminded him that I don't think they beat us in any of those times that he pitched. And then I have another name from the past from you. Dan Kokendorfer is going to be helping me out.
Oh my God!
Dang.
And Dan was a catcher for me.
Yes,
at Lewistown, and also played at Garrett Community for a couple of years before going to Mansfield for his final couple of years of college. Really well liked by the kids. The kids really like him a lot. And the other guy, and the other varsity assistant, another player favorite is Kevin Regal. And Kevin is, he
is that related to Scotty Regal?
Yeah, this is Scott's son.
Okay.
He was coaching JVs for several years with Coach McGonigal, and he stepped away a little bit last year, but then he's back with us now on a volunteer basis. At the JV level, we have Josh Nichols. He's going to be the head JV coach, and then the JV assistant coach. More past names here for you. We're going to be really making you guys, dig down here. The JV assistant is Matt Shoemaker.
Oh my!
Wow!
And so
former Indian Valley coach.
Yes, and here you have to go further for this one. The other JV coach is Dave Quay.
Penn Highlands.
Mm-hmm.
I know him real well.
Yeah, and Dave is. I don't know. I can't imagine that there's a lot of individuals in the county that know more about pitching than Dave Quay. And I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have him on board, because the kids, I wasn't sure how they took him at first, but he sits and he watches them throw their bullpens and he manages them through this. And I mean, he has been absolutely wonderful for those kids that are coming in and going through this program for the first time. And I'm super excited to have him on board.
Nice. If I'm not mistaken, he helped Shoemaker at IV.
Yeah, he was an assistant for Buck Ryden back whenever
Buck
was coaching. Mm-hmm.
Buck's one of my favorite people of all time.
And I would echo that, because I know, coming in here, I was coming in here from someplace else, and I really didn't know a lot of people. And when I was the assistant with Mike Culver at Lewistown back in the late 90s.
Oh yeah.
Buck introduced himself to me, and I'll never forget him telling me that, you seem like you're really interested in this, and if you ever have any questions, don't you hesitate to look me up and call me. And I remember that. And I got a chance to talk to Buck quite a bit when I was coaching softball, because his granddaughter, Alyssa Schnell, was playing for us back then. And, and I got to see him quite a bit. And I can't remember a time that we didn't still talk about baseball, even in those days.
Yeah, just an aside, I wish we'd have done it. Big Louie doesn't broadcast spring sports. Mm-hmm. And I had, we were at the Junior Babe Ruth States. Well, it's not junior, is it anymore? I don't know. It's something else. But we were there a couple of years ago, and he wanted to broadcast baseball with me. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine the knowledge he could have spouted out?
He's probably forgotten more about baseball than you and I will ever know.
Yep. And then I remember covering him first time, just a couple times. And I noticed I'm going to ask you about yours. It seems that baseball managers and players have weird habits and things they do. And I don't know if you ever noticed, but Buck, when it would come out to third base to coach, he would tap the third base mound 5 times with each leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, and he did it every inning, and I'm like, oh my god. So Ray Hoppel, what's yours? What's your hang up?
I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of superstitions that go along with baseball for as long as I can remember, and I mean, just simple things like rally caps and so on and so forth. But I don't know that I do it all the time. But we have a player on our team, Hayden Yoder. I think I mentioned him when we were talking about the outfielders. He's probably one of my all-time favorite players that I've ever coached. And, you know, if he makes the last out in the inning, we always will usually do this kind of goofy jump up and chest bump or shoulder bump or something like that. I wasn't as concerned about it a few years ago, but now that I'm kind of over that 50 knob, I kind of worry, am I going to rip a hamstring or blow an Achilles or something like that? So I'm a little careful, but I don't know if I necessarily have any crazy superstitions, but I know I'm very vocal in the dugout. I mean, everybody on the hillside, even though we're not facing them, they're probably going to hear me. They're going to hear me in the dugout a lot. I feel like I'm very vocal, but I don't know that there's anything quite to Buck's level that I do.
I couldn't believe it, and it was amazing too because Franco was there before me and covered him before me, and he didn't see it either. I'm like, well, go to a game, cover a Buck game, and watch what he does. 5 times with his left leg, 5 times with his right on third base, every single time.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will try to come up with something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Do an Aussie Smith cartwheel.
Well, that you better have the paramedics there because I probably won't make it all the way around.
So, young guys, underclassmen. I mean, you don't have to name names if you don't want, but just give me your thoughts on them, like how they're looking, how they're handling it, because I always say this over and over again. In any sport, probably the toughest thing to do is come from junior high to varsity in anything.
Right.
And so how are they handling it? What are your thoughts on your younger guys?
Well, I feel like our JV program right now. Now, granted, like I said, this, you have to separate the team at some point, but I feel like we have 3 JV pitchers that have the ability to throw varsity at some point this year. The 3 guys I'm talking about are Landon Haig, Austin McKnight, and Parker Crownover. Now, if you're not familiar with Parker, he actually transferred in here back in January from Williamsburg. And he was a starter at Williamsburg last year. And so this has been, one of the things that I talked to him about when he first came in was, I want you to understand that you're coming in to 6A baseball from 1A baseball. And I'm certainly not trying to diminish anything that Williamsburg does, because I mean, they've had a good program for years. As a matter of fact, when I was at Northern Cambria, they knocked us out of districts when I was a senior. When I was a junior, I'm sorry. They had a Baker boy that went to Juniata, was kind of an all-world athlete there. But it's those 3 guys. I feel like from a pitching standpoint, if Josh and Matt and Dave can run those 3 out there in 3 consecutive games, I mean, they're going to win a lot. I know at the beginning of the year, you watch a little bit with the pitchers, especially when it's cold. You don't want them to throw too much. But even after those guys, the name that the coaches to me have brought up that has pitched well is Thad Gerwick. He's a 9th grader. He's been doing a nice job. Carl Shirey is another guy who's been doing a nice job. And so, I mean, the important part of developing a solid program is having those guys waiting in the wings, and not only waiting in the wings, but pushing the guys that are currently at the varsity level to make sure that they stay on top of their game.
Yeah, I know about Landon Haig, pretty good football player for a young guy. So
he's a remarkable athlete. He really is.
So we got a little NIL money, huh? Get him down from Williamsburg.
Well,
Is Tish?
well,
Is
I
Tish?
mean, I don't
Is
know.
Tish?
What do you give him? Some OIP ranch? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, what do we have? I mean,
Is Tish setting aside some NIL money?
if she is, she hasn't told me about it yet. So,
So you're liking. I don't know how much you scan. I think you do, but all the way down to Little League and that, and Babe Ruth. What do you think of the feeder system? What do you like about it, and what do you think needs more work to make it better?
I don't. I mean, I was a part of Mifflin County youth baseball for about 4 or 5 seasons when my son was at that level. So, I mean, I can tell you a little bit about what I saw back then. I felt like Mifflin County youth baseball did a pretty good job. I mean, one of the things that happened during that time was the incorporation of Cal Ripken and the opportunity to play 50-70 baseball. And certainly, if you talk to one person, they'll tell you that 50-70 is very valuable. It's what they're playing at the travel baseball level. Learning to hold runners on at a younger level is going to make you a little bit more. It's going to make you a little bit more adaptable to the big field. And then you have the other school of thought that says, why do we need to push that so quick? Why can't we just stay with the 46-60 that Little League has held on to for so long? There's certainly nothing wrong with either one. I mean, I can see the benefit of both. And there have been moments where the two leagues, the Big Valley League, which primarily sides with Little League, and then the Mifflin County League, which is teamed up with Cal Ripken. I mean, there have been opportunities to work things out between both leagues, and it's been on again, off again. But I mean, ultimately, you want to try to do what's best for the kids. But what can make that a little bit difficult is that when you have varying difficulty levels, your stronger players are more interested in playing the 50-70, whereas some of the other players maybe not so much. And I don't know, I'm not sure what the solution is, but it certainly involves people getting together and trying to figure out what's best for the kids, because ultimately that's what it's about. And I still think there's room for both. And there was an agreement a couple of years ago where they did incorporate both organizations into the county. But I mean, honestly, I think that when players are here, it doesn't really matter the level, whether it's Babe Ruth or Little League, whatever the level, here in Mifflin County, this is a small pond. And when you expand your horizons and go down the road primarily toward the Harrisburg or the Philadelphia area, or if you go west to the Pittsburgh area, we're talking about, most players that are on high school teams having some kind of a collegiate profile. And I'm not necessarily saying that's the right way to do things, and whether all those players are necessarily deserving of it. But, if you focus just at the rec level, I mean, it has I always feel like that every kid should have the opportunity to play for their hometown. And I think Junior Babe Ruth is great for that. And I love the support that the county gives to it whenever these guys make their runs. But also keep in perspective that that's not the only baseball out there. There is a much bigger pond to our east and a much bigger pond to our west of baseball talent. And I feel like seeing that is eye-opening for a lot of our kids to really, put in that extra work to get to that level.
Uh-oh, you saying that, Ray Wild? He doesn't know your address, does he?
I don't know. He does. I think Babe Ruth baseball is great. I really do. And it has its place. There's no question about it.
I know that. I'm kidding you.
Oh, I know. But it is a, these guys that we see in the Commonwealth, the Central Dauphin's, the Cumberland Valleys, the Redlands, the Cedar Cliffs, the Chambersburgs, the State College does play some Babe Ruth. They're kind of back and forth a little bit, but
yeah,
those other schools, we don't see them in the Babe Ruth trail. And so a lot of times at the high school level, that's when we're seeing them for the first time, unless a few of our guys maybe have played against them in some travel baseball tournaments.
Yeah, high school, like you said earlier, is a different beast.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the Central Mountain team made the Little League World Series?
Yeah.
Everybody was saying how good they were going to be. They were okay, but they won one district championship
Yeah,
in their 4 years.
And at the time, I think they only had to go through Hollidaysburg and Bellefonte. I think at the time they weren't even playing. They were in 5A, not 6A.
All right, I got to get to the sore spot. We talked
no.
about this when I interviewed you for the preview. The problem with Mifflin County, and I agreed with you, the last couple of years has been hitting.
Mm-hmm.
Scoring runs, hitting. What do you think about your hitting right now in practices? I mean, I know it's cold and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you hadn't, the week before that, you didn't get out much, but do you see improvement? And how do you get somebody a player to improve their hitting? I say give them Ted Williams' book.
You know, there certainly wouldn't be anything wrong with that. You know, I'll say this. You know, I wish at this point we would have had the opportunity to hit outside more, just because I think we have, and this goes for any team. It's not just me. It's not just us, but every team has guys that can be true cage warriors. I mean, they go in there and they look like they're just ripping the cover off the ball, and then you put them out in the field, and it's not quite the same. And so I really was hoping that we would be able to get outside this week and prepare for that. But unfortunately, you know, I'm certainly not going to make guys hit when it's 35 degrees outside.
Right.
You know, bust up bats and hurt their hands and those kinds of things. So what you do is you do the best to try to simulate game situations. And, you know, the first game next week against Central Dauphin, we're going to probably see a guy named Nate Payne, who is, you know, velocity wise up in the low to mid 90s. And it's really hard for me at my age to try to recreate that velocity in the batting. So I mean, there's been a lot of pitching machine type stuff where we're trying to speed things up for our guys, so that way they're a little bit more prepared for what they see. But I mean, as far as hitting is concerned, you know, a lot of it is just reaction. I mean, you can say what you want about this hitting coach or that hitting coach, and there's certainly some fundamental flaws that people have, whether it be with their hands or their hips or their feet or whatever. But all you need to do is go to YouTube, and you can find 10,000 coaches telling you how to hit.
Yeah.
But in reality, you know, I don't know that I'm not a big guy that goes and just looks for the next greatest thing. I think if you simplify it as much as possible and get from A to B as quick as you can, and with the least amount of hitches and flaws as you can, and we're going to need to be that way, especially with the pitching next week. I think we'll be fine. And I think what really helps too is that we have a lot of guys that have experience from last year, so they know what to expect. And what's really nice is seeing them talk to the younger players about what they're going to expect, because we have guys on our team that have basically, you know, they may play some travel ball and face some good pitching, but they probably haven't seen what we're going to see next week. And so, you know, I really appreciate that from our older guys, because that's part of building a culture and building a program as well. It's got to start from the top down with those players. And when they kind of give their expectations to those young guys of what's going to happen, that's how it builds. But as far as fundamental hitting, I mean, I feel like we're hitting the ball pretty well right now, but good pitchers have a way of shutting down good hitting, no matter how good the hitters are.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have to really be resourceful with our bats next week and with our at bats to try to. I mean, there's going to be times where we have to manufacture some runs and maybe let our pitching and defense do what they can to help us win.
Yeah. Would you say a lot of it, though, is what we talked about, like you talked about earlier, with being mental? It's the confidence, and then just doing it, just practicing.
Yeah, it's
unless you're practicing wrong.
Yeah, well, I read something. I read something the other day, and there was a coach that was talking about. They were talking about defense, and they were referring to defense from hitting, and they're like, well, if you want to get better at your defense, why is it that we take 300 swings of practice but only 5 ground balls? These guys don't have any issues taking 300 swings a day. So I mean, it's if we struggle to hit, it's not going to be for lack of repetition. That's for sure, because we have guys that are taking lots of swings and doing lots of drills and seeing lots of pitching, whether it be from me up close or from a pitching machine that's trying to throw the ball around 90 miles an hour. It's certainly not that. But we also talked tonight too. One of the things we left off at practice was, don't be afraid to fail. I mean, baseball is such a game of failure, and there's guys that are going to shoot, 90% from the free throw line in a basketball season, but there's nobody that's going to hit 900 in baseball. It just isn't.
No.
Right.
So, I mean, so you have to, I feel like baseball is such a great life teacher from that standpoint, because if you struggle to deal with failure, baseball is probably not for you. And you really need to learn to deal with failure and not be afraid to fail. I feel like, and if you walk up in that first at bat and things don't go your way, you watch and you observe and you do the things that are necessary to make your second at bat a little bit more successful. But that doesn't guarantee anything. There's certainly no guarantees in any game. I mean, the best players in the world are going to go 0-for-4 sometimes. And so, I mean, you just have to make sure that that doesn't change your mindset, and your 0-for-4 one game doesn't become an 0-for-4 the next.
Right. If you're 3 for 10, you're an all-star.
Right.
So you can get out 7 other times, And it's
and
not like basketball, like you said. Not that I'm dissing basketball, but
sure,
you can be like Allen Iverson and take 72 shots in a game and go, wow, he got 38. Because,
right.
You took 72 shots.
And I don't. And the thing is, and now, granted, the one bad thing about high school season is you're kind of limited to 20 games. But if you look at it from a major league perspective, literally the difference between a hitter hitting 300 in the major leagues and a hitter hitting 250 in the major leagues is 1 hit per week.
Wow.
It's 1 hit per week. So it's really not that big of a difference. And so, I like to emphasize, get 1% better every day. And, sometimes it's taking some extra swings and sometimes it's taking some extra ground balls, but whatever it may be, make that 1% count, because by the end of the year, if you're doing 1% every day, you're going to see the results.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree with that. But what you said earlier, that would be Kenny and I. We'd be all show and no go.
Well,
we might even be no go in the batting cage.
So if you guys stepped into the batting cage against one of my pitchers, you guys would be like Bartolo Colon. Is that right?
Yeah.
If you remember, he kind of threw his bat onto one a few years ago, and I think he hit the only home run he's hit in 20-some years or so.
No, I wouldn't be getting a home run. No. I'd be Mario Mendoza.
So you could hit 200.
No, I'd be worse than that. They'd give a new line for me. I'd be 150 career hitter. Okay. 150, no homers, 1 RBI. And that's because I got hit.
Did you walk with the bases loaded?
No, I got hit by a pitch with the bases loaded.
That counts too.
Because I'd swing at everything,
Yeah, that's something that happens in a cage sometimes too. We were talking to our kids about that the other night.
So, we talked about this too in the preview. The schedule is brutal. It really is. You got the great teams in the Mid-Penn Conference, and then non-conference state champions, returning state champions, Bellefonte, state runner-ups, Mount Union. And then you got, I think Bellefonte's 4A, right? Mount Union's double A.
Yep.
And you also got Midwest, who's really good. Central Mountain. I know it's brutal, but like we were talking about, that's only going to make you guys better, isn't it?
I would hope so. I mean, I believe that whenever I was I can't remember. I can't remember if I put this, if I answered this way when we were doing our interview. But our non-league teams that we play on our schedule had a combined 103 and 37 record.
Yes, you did, and it's in the story too.
Yeah, and that doesn't count. That doesn't count the the juggernauts in our league as well. And so, I mean, I don't think and I'll give you an example. Let's say at the end of this season we play 20 games and we're 10-10, and we may very well be the best 10-10 team in the state based on who we've played. Because, I mean, you look at just from the non-league perspective. I mean, Bellefonte brings back the majority of their kids, and so does Midwest, and so does Central Mountain. And there's 3 teams right there that between the 3 of them, I think Bellefonte won 24. I think Central Mountain won 21. And Midwest, I think, won 18. So just right there is over 60.
And it doesn't matter what Mount Union lost; they're always good.
They're always good, and they bring back their number 1 pitcher too. So it's definitely a sometimes I can remember going back to the Lewistown days, and by no means am I trying to disrespect anybody when I say this, but whenever we would play State College, and we would need 1,000% effort from everybody just to win that ball game. The next game may have been against Penns Valley, who struggled a little bit, and they were a smaller school than we were. And I'm not saying that we let down, but I mean, you didn't need to give quite the best effort against them to still get a win, just because, I mean, they were playing hard, but they weren't the caliber of State College. But
right.
But I mean, but this is completely different. And if we let our guard down for even 1 second against any of the teams that we play, whether it be a loss.
Well, what you're saying then is you don't play a James Franklin schedule.
No. We didn't get UMass on the schedule this year, or Delaware,
or our sisters.
I might like our chances a little bit more.
Our Sisters of the Mary Communion or something like that.
Little Sisters of the Poor. Yeah, they're not on our schedule this year either.
Okay, that's good. No, so you sound optimistic, buddy.
I do. I am.
Okay, forget the wins and losses and all that stuff. What would make you happy at the end of the year? What do you want to see from your guys?
Well, ultimately, something that I've said to them on many occasions is, if you take care of the little things, the big things will take care of themselves. And so if we are able to, have good practices and put together good games, and no, we're not going to win them all. We're not. I mean, I've paid attention to high school baseball forever, and I truly don't know of many teams that have ever gone through a season undefeated. I think a few years ago there was a team from Central Martinsburg that did, but I want to say they had, 4 or 5 Division I or drafted players.
Yeah, they did.
On a team that was playing 3A, and so you just don't see that.
No,
you just don't see that very often, and so that's what it took to do that. I mean, there's going to be days where, number one, baseball, it's the old saying, well, it's just baseball. Sometimes you can hit the ball right on the screws and it's just going to go right at somebody, or you're going to run into a hot pitcher and it doesn't matter what you do. They just seem to have your number that day. And so, as far as goals, I mean, obviously, with the way Mifflin County runs their playoff system, the way you qualify for playoffs, you can qualify with being 500. You can qualify by going 500 against teams in your district of your size. And so for us, that's State College and Altoona. And, number one is we got to get ourselves qualified for districts, because that's not a foregone conclusion. We're talking about 2 teams that last year Mifflin County did beat each of those teams. But at the same time, Altoona is always exceptional with pitching and defense. State College has a couple of really good arms this year, guys that really didn't see a lot of time last year because they were really senior heavy on the mound last year, but they have some younger guys that can throw. And so, obviously we have a goal of getting to the district playoffs, but I want to see the improvement. I've always, I've said to players before, I'd like to show you a video on day one and then show you another video on the last day just to see how much you've grown. And sometimes in the day to day, you don't always get an opportunity to see that. But I personally have seen that from a lot of players, even in these first couple of weeks.
Nice. Thank you, Pee Wee Duncan, for the like. We appreciate it. Good old Pee Wee. He's one of our
listening in.
Yeah, he's one of our regulars, man.
Yep.
That's because Kenny's got to pay him to come on and give us
really?
Yeah, give us likes.
Is that your NIL money?
Yeah, Kenny. He helps Kenny coach the Burnham Bulldogs special needs football. And
yeah, he was always in at the Lewistown events when I was there too.
Yeah, he's like Lewistown's biggest fan of everything, all the sports.
He and Sean Farrell.
Yeah, yep.
Pee Wee only has one problem. His brother is a 49er fan.
Yeah.
And when you're a Ram fan, there's no 49ers. I'm still trying to recover from Aaron Donald.
Yeah, that was I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't expect that, but I mean, I kind of understand. But
yeah, he did a Barry Sanders on his own terms. He was great, still healthy. Why not?
He's a smart guy.
Yeah. And had a Super Bowl under his belt too. So.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Kenny. I like that. You got anything else, Kenny?
Nope. I think you've pretty much covered it.
I got one more.
Okay.
You're coming out. When's Central Dauphin now?
Monday.
Okay. Is that home or away?
That is home. We have Central Dauphin at home on Monday, and then we have State College at home on Wednesday. And I believe the following week is, I don't know if it's Monday or Tuesday. Tuesday, I believe we have Altoona at home as well. So we get two District 6 teams back to back.
All right. So get out there, people, and support them. If it's cold, wear a sweater.
That's right.
Yep. Or a parka, whichever.
My final question is, Monday comes, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You're coming out. You got the butterflies a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's only natural.
Right.
All right. I got a question for you then from Steven Alexander.
Oh.
Yeah. So I want to get to this first. When you come out of there, there'll be butterflies, of course. But how excited are you going to be the head coach again of a baseball team?
Well, I've been coaching baseball now, even since I quit coaching the other gig. So, I mean, I've really not left the field.
Okay, I should say head varsity coach.
Right. I know what you mean. But, I've known these guys for a long time, these kids. And honestly, I don't know that I can stress enough how personal this is for me, this go around, just because I've known these kids for so long. And I've developed a relationship with not only them, but their families as well. And that, I think, and I'm not trying to say this to be disrespectful to the Lewistown program by any means, but I think that at least looking at it in that way, it means a little bit more. And it's really, it really is important to me also to have my son on the team, because, if you're a kid playing baseball and your dad's the coach, it's not always easy. So I'm really excited to have him. I'm really excited to be there for him. But all of these guys that are on the team, if I've coached them in the past, we've looked ahead a lot to this time and saying, one day you're going to be on that varsity field. It's going to come here before you know it. And here we are. And so seeing a lot of the hard work and seeing a lot of everything that they've done come to fruition, I can't express to you how proud it makes me of all the boys.
Awesome. Steven's got a good question here.
I'm sure
Steven Alexander. I'll put it up. I got a question for Coach Hoppel. Was he able to enjoy a beer while conducting this interview?
While conducting it, No, because sometimes what happens is a little alcohol gives you some truth serum, and sometimes that ends up making you say some things that maybe you might not want to say. Not because they're wrong, but because maybe they're a little bit more truthful. But no, everything that I've said to this point is 1,000% from the heart. But I did not. I did this fresh off a chicken sub at Joe's OIP up in the Walmart Plaza there. So I'll give them a little bit of a shout out because they're always great to us.
Yeah, they're good people.
They are. Kathy was our server tonight. She's a gem. But no, it's I did not have a drink, but I didn't need one because I have nothing but great things to say about these boys.
Hey, Kenny, we got a quote from we got a comment from Drew Pellman.
Hey, Drew.
Drew Pellman.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Here it is. Remind Ray to treat the game officials with the ultimate respect.
Yes. And I referee a lot of basketball with Drew.
I know that.
And so, Drew's a good dude, and he needs to get his baseball certificate so that way he can umpire. And if I decide to abuse anybody, I'll make sure that I put him on the list.
Awesome. Well, any final thing you would like to add, sir, that we may have missed?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, you guys asked a lot of questions, and they were great questions. And there's I've always enjoyed talking about the players, and we certainly have our share of really good ones this year. But despite their successes and despite their accomplishments, we still have a lot of work to do, and I'm looking forward to see where the hard work that we've done over the last couple of weeks of where that takes us.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Yes,
hey, I appreciate you having me, and I certainly appreciate you promoting the program the way you do.
Come back anytime.
Hey,
we'll arrange it during the season here. Good luck. Hope you have a great year. And thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate all you guys do. Thank you again.
All right. That is Ray Hoppel, Mifflin County baseball. I was actually going to say boys baseball, Kenny. Baseball coach. And we wish him luck this season. He does have a tough schedule. I mean,
yeah.
He does. And hopefully they can put it together.
Yeah, he has a good team though. I mean, covering them the last couple of years, they've had a lot, like you said, there was a lot of close games, where they were in it. And I think that the maturity and a lot of them played at an early, like as a 9th or 10th grader. So a lot of these kids are, experienced, and I think there's nothing but good things going to come out of this season for them.
Yeah, let's hope so. I miss going to the games in the spring. I really do. But I'm a hermit now. All right. Any shout outs, buddy?
Yes, I have a few shout outs.
Okay, let's rock it. Hold on.
All righty.
Eating the Ducks, Kenny Varner. Shout outs.
Okay, and here we go. Shout out to Bellefonte lacrosse player Ryder Hamilton. As he's closing in, he's 4 goals away from hitting the 100-goal mark for his career. He is the first Bellefonte Red Raider to do that. So congratulations. I should be getting it tomorrow. They have another home game. So good luck. And
congrats.
Yeah. Here's one. Shout out to the UVA Wise Cavalier pitcher, Daniel Carnegie. Carnegie used to pitch for East Juniata, and as of late, he's been doing quite well. Made his first start of the season this past weekend. Pitched 5 scoreless innings to lead the Cavs to a 3-0 victory against Coker University. And for the year, in his last 11 6.1 innings. Carnegie has been scoreless and has 9 strikeouts with an ERA of course, 0. And his season, he has an ERA of 2.35. Pretty impressive.
Nice.
Yeah.
I gotta thank Rob Bay for the like. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Former Indian Valley football coach.
And this is a shout out to Port Royal racer Matt Shepard. Won the opener this past weekend at Port Royal. So they're up and running again.
Yes, they are. They were rained out the first week, right?
Yeah, yep. And they were afraid that this last weekend was going to be one, but the weather moved up a day, so they were able to get it in. So, so hopefully they won't have any. Hello.
Sorry, my mic was going goofy again. Sorry.
Oh, okay. With this wind, I can see why. No.
Go ahead.
Okay. Next up, former Mifflin County slugger Jess Broomball, who now plays for Penn College. She hit her first college home run.
Nice.
So awesome job there. And congratulations to Keystone State champions, Caitlin Krebs and Engel. So
yeah, Juniata, man. Caitlin Krebs, she took third at PJWs, won the Keystones. And then, Juniata had a good day. Tanner Engel won it. Carson Kirk was third. Goody for them. Mifflin County had some too. Jace Atherton placed. I believe he was third. Wait, I'm doubting myself now. So I'm going real quick. I'm going to my Facebook page so we can shout them out. I'll get there, Kenny. Go ahead if you have any more.
Well, I'm just gonna say this really isn't a shout out, but good luck to Trent Hidley as he gets ready for the NCAA wrestling. Captured the ACC championship.
His fourth.
And he'll be wrestling tomorrow? Starts tomorrow?
Yes. At noon. What do you think I'm going to be doing tomorrow at noon? Watching the NCAAs. There's only 4 things to watch. The 4 big storylines at NCAAs. How healthy is Carter Starachi? How many champs are Penn State going to get? Are they going to break the record held by Iowa for points? And who's going to finish second? Because Penn State has it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. Real quick, just to get those other ones, I'm going to give everybody credit here. Juniata also had girls 96-pounder Riley Delancey was 8th. And at 125, Brea Beward, I know that, it's Beward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was 7th. For Mifflin County, 90 pounds, Emmett Bishop was 8th. 55 pounds, Jace Atherton was 4th. And 95 pounds, Julian Altieri was 5th. Congratulations to them.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny, were you ever 55 pounds?
When I was 2.
I think maybe when I was born. All right, go ahead.
Real side note right now. I got the most hilarious thing in the mail yesterday.
What was that?
Some organization sent me a pamphlet to run a 5K. Nope. Not doing it. Unless there's pizza at the end, there's no chance.
Start training, buddy.
I was thinking, do they know who they're sending this to or what?
I'll train you. I'll get my electric wheelchair. You can go running down in the park, and then I'll play the Rocky music. Gonna fly now.
Gonna fall now at my age. And the last shout out I got is a personal one. I want to take a shout out to my daughter, Brianna. Made me a grandpa 3 times over.
I saw that.
Little baby
Congratulations.
girl. Thank you. So, yep, it's Lily. So, congratulations and welcome to the family, Lily. You don't know what you got ahead of you.
Hello, Lily.
So, and that, Ryan, that's my shout outs for this week.
All right, I want to thank I thank everybody. I shout them out to Robin Stringfellow for the like. We appreciate that. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
All right, that's going to about wrap it up for us. We appreciate you hanging out with us every Wednesday like you do, and we'll be back next Wednesday with another guest. And you've been listening to the Press Box. I was going to say on Big Louie, dude. I'm so used to doing that. Thank you for listening to Press Box. For Kenny Barner, I'm Brian Carson. Have a great rest of your week and an even better weekend. Take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody.